persons. It could also mean human trafficking. So when I refer to trafficking in persons, please don't get confused. Just a little background. Okay, continue. Okay, just a little background. Trafficking in persons is a menace that is not limited to a particular space, region, and continent, but we could see it as a global ill. And this is caused by many factors, but with a major reference to globalization that comes with a huge demand for labor, and that's cheap labor precisely. When we look at Africa, Africa ranks high when we consider the statistics on trafficking in persons globally. Africa ranks high, and when we bring it down to the sub-regional level, we would see that West Africa takes the lead, and when we bring it down to country level, Nigeria takes the lead, and that makes it an issue of concern. And I'm glad that our presenter today, Mr. Babatunde Jegede, has taken it upon himself to review and to assess what the government and the various civil society organizations have done in terms of tackling and curbing this menace in Nigeria. Trafficking in persons is also one of the largest sources of revenue for organized crime. A UNODC report noted that migrant smuggling from Africa to Europe attracts a turnover of more than $300 million per year. Excuse me, please. Per year. To successfully traffic a woman to Europe for sexual exploitation cost the trafficker about $2,000 US, which is used for procuring travel documents, bribing key officials, and transporting the woman to the person who is stamped the madam in Europe, who pays the trafficker a sum of $12,000 US. And for children, depending on the source country, destination, and purpose, a trafficker earns between $50 and $1,000 for every child delivered to the employer. Specifically for the United States, a trafficker earns between $10,000 to $20,000 US on every African child delivered successfully. Trafficking in persons became a priority before the United Nations General Assembly and the Commission on Human Rights, which led to the World Conference on Human Rights in Vienna and the World Conference on Women in Beijing in the 1990s. These efforts channeled towards addressing trafficking in persons at the global level has resulted in the promulgation of various conventions and protocols. And the common one, which we all know, is the United Nations Protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children. Today, many countries across the globe have attempted to domesticate these conventions such that they're able to deploy them in the fight against trafficking in persons. Another issue on trafficking in persons that has raised contention between and among scholars and professionals has to do with data trends, sources, and reliability. Different figures have been given by various scholars, agencies, governments, the United Nations agencies, and all that, on figures or statistics on the global trend of human trafficking. And this variation is caused by the fluid nature and the clandestine nature of the way trafficking in persons is being carried out globally. This is why I am happy that someone has taken it upon himself to actually delve into this and see what has been done by the Nigerian government and the various civil society organizations that we have as far as Nigeria is concerned. And I will say to you, Mr. Babatunde, that you are privileged to have your paper reviewed by an immigration officer who is saddled or who is well-versed in the fight against trafficking in persons in Nigeria. It is on this note that I would introduce our reviewers. We have Mr. Ngozi Uzomah, my very good friend and colleague. Thank you for accepting to critique this paper. I would also like to welcome a representative of Nigerian Immigration Service in the person of Mr. Alabi. I hope he is here. Okay. Having said that, I think I would just call on our presenter to present his paper on anti-trafficking in Nigeria, the role of government and CSOs in curbing human trafficking. Over to you, Mr. Jegede.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Babatunde Jegede from University of Ibadan, Peace and Conflict Study. Peace and Conflict Study. So, my area of specialization is human security. Anti-trafficking, as we all know,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry to interrupt, please. Please, you have 20 minutes to make your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you. No problem, sir. As I said earlier, I'm from University of Ibadan, Peace and Conflict Study, area of specialization, human security. And human security basically composed of 7 components. We have the political security, economic security, we have food security, we have earth security, we have environment, we have personal, and we have community security. Among these 7 components of human security, anti-trafficking of persons happen to be infringement of human rights under human security, which is about personal security. And that means that if one is not well secure in every areas of life, he or she is subjected to manipulation or exploitation by men who want to derive them of their humanity. So anti-trafficking in Nigeria is not new. But the most critical, important thing about anti-trafficking in Nigeria is that it has gone on undetected for many years by the government. And it took the effort of an NGO, particularly NGO established by former Vice President wife, that is Mrs. Titi Atiku Abubakar, who noticed the abnormalities when she traveled to Italy between 1985 to 1986. That was a period she brought it to the attention of the federal government. But the federal government didn't do much about it. And all that till the Fourth Republic in 2003, when federal government established anti-trafficking agency to look at anti-trafficking in Nigeria. And since then, federal government has been, with the collaboration of civil society, has been working hand in hand to curb the menace of human trafficking in Nigeria. Human trafficking in Nigeria, it is not situated to the southern Nigeria alone, because there is this believed among us that once we hear about Edo people, Edo state, we think about that is actually prostitution takes place in alone. But from my study, I discovered that anti-trafficking of persons cut across north and south. Cut across north and south. At the same time, their operations differ from one another. When I mean their operation is that the way it is being done in the south is quite a bit different from it being done in the north, but the same objective is what those who engage in it carried out. Okay, because of time factor, let's look at the basic thing. The introduction, I try to under the introduction, I try to look at activities of human trafficking across the global world, and I stated clearly that human trafficking is as old as in giving a background of human trafficking, that the objective of human traffickers are the same: to exploit their victims and to rid them of their humanity. And also, I try to look at the laws, the various laws federal government has put in place to curb human trafficking. We have the two basic laws. We have the Nigerian Criminal Code and the Penal uh, Criminal Code. Why the Nigerian Criminal Code is used in the southern Nigeria, the Penal Code is used in northern Nigeria. And the reasons are basically because of differences in religion, differences in historical background, which is understandable. And these laws has been, at one time or the other, been implemented. But in my study, I discover vividly that both laws, though they serve one primary purpose, but one carry more weight than the other. For instance, the Nigerian Criminal Code do not carry such weight, only give room for those who commit activities that are related to human trafficking to be punished or given a 2 years imprisonment, and sometimes with an option of fine. But when we look at the penal code that is operated in the north, which is similar to that of Islamic law, does not give room for as the option of payment of fine. Rather, it went ahead to penalize offenders and ensure that they are well punished. I stated that in my listing when I cited uh, some section of the Constitution that talks about it. For instance, in Nigeria Criminal Code, we talks about section 3223, subsection 2, which state that any Nigeria within or outside the shore of Nigeria that engage in human trafficking by coercing its victim to take prostitution as a means of livelihood with the aim of exploiting them financially is liable to 2 years imprisonment in the criminal code. As beautiful as this law sounds, but it gives an option of fine to be paid if the person indicted choose not to go to prison. But if we look at the penalty code, under the penalty code, it states that whoever under section 275, it states whoever influence a teenager who is below the age of consent under 18 to work as a sex worker and had sexual intercourse with the opposite sex, whether intentional or to be coerced to engage in prostitution, such individual who influence underage girl shall have an additional 10 years imprisonment term or being fined. We can see the differences in those sections. Though there are two separate laws for different region, but we see that the penalty code operated has more weight and carry more weight of indictment, that even the offender will think twice before they engage in such activities. Though Folano and Afolabi, as I quoted, stated clearly that the scatting of legislature in the Constitution does not hinder any form of trafficking, but instead the criminal and penal code stipulate offense and the punishment to be pointed out against offenders. Though there is no law in Nigeria that pinpoint directly to human anti-trafficking law, but all legislatures so far only treat human trafficking within the confinement of offense related to infringement of human rights. At the same time, but in 2003, there was a bit of change in 2003. when the National Assembly legislate upon National Agency for Prevention of Trafficking, Person and other related matter, which was precisely done August 8, 2003. They make some certain thing by empowering the agency to prosecute, not just to prosecute, to arrest and criminalize all offense related to human trafficking. In their convention, section Article 5 state that member must be criminalized all practice related to human trafficking, dehumanize of person, child labor, and sexual exploitation. That means if you check under NAPTI Law Enforcement Act of 2003, what the two previous law did not take into consideration, the agency, the NAPTI law was empowered to carry them out. That is on that. At the same time, they were also given the responsibility to detain and investigate suspected human traffickers. At the same time, they were also given the responsibility to integrate all those who have been a victim of human traffickers, to rehabilitate them and integrate them back to the society. That has been the effort government has been making over the years to curb the activities of human trafficking of late. But if we look at the roles of federal government, specifically the roles of civil society, in the write-up, I made mention that civil society as a third estate, as a third estate in Nigeria, has contributed massively to ensure that, has contributed massively to the activities of human trafficking in curbing the menace. And most importantly to mention is the organization established by the wife of Mrs. Atiku Abubakar. In my stating the view of Nwanku, human trafficking in Nigeria started to take center of stage national in the late 90s after the revelation of Mrs. Titi Atiku with the former wife of the former vice president, when she narrated her Italy experience about the humanizing state of most Nigerians. Based on her revelation about it, she created the needed awareness, and by so doing, federal government, she established a foundation known as Women Trafficking and Child Labor Eradication Foundation in 1999. In addition to that, before then, in 1997, BC Olature, also the president of Association of Women Costume of Nigeria, they were also created awareness of woman trafficking, particularly women who are being trafficked for what? For prostitution outside the shoal of Nigeria, as stated in my paper, under the rules of woman trafficking. Besides these two organizations, we also have certain organizations that contributed in ensuring that human trafficking is curbed at all cost. For instance, we have Queen Indian Renaissance that were established by the former wife of Edo State Governor, that means Mrs. Egbenido, in 1999. And she established it because of due to the social decadence of the society, during the regime of her husband. At the same time, because of the negative image Edo State has on prostitution of their ladies, trafficking of their women outside the shore of Nigeria for human trafficking, particularly to Italy. In order to curb it, she established two centers. One of the centers is to equip young and youths of Edo State to engage in vocational training in order to dissuade them. As my time elapsed. Hello?
No, you still have 8 minutes more.
Okay, thank you, sir. As I was saying, the former wife of the Edo State Governor, Ekin Egbinido, she established two centers in order to be able to mitigate against human trafficking of persons in Edo State, since Edo State was the center or the theater of human trafficking in Nigeria. And one of the things is that she established a vocational training in order to so that those youth and young and teenagers can embrace vocational training to dissuade them from being lured by human traffickers to Italy or to any part. At the same time, she also established another center for reintegrating victims of human traffickers. And this agency or this center did massive job to ensure, did a lot of good job, because by their job, they were able to what? Reduce the number of people that were being trafficked out of Nigeria. Another agency to look at, another NGO that did a wonderful work in in anti-trafficking is Child Development Focus on Nigeria, that work closely with different agencies like immigration, police, and NESTA by providing law enforcement agencies with useful information about the activities of human trafficking. Though this organization or agency is based in the north, particularly in Kaduna and Kano. And by the activities, they were able to take many children, many admirable children off the street who are prone or being used for human trafficking. At the same time, this organization also provide needful information to assist federal government agency about human trafficking. And lastly, I also look at reasons why human trafficking become more profitable or why people easily get to human trafficking. One of it is the social inequality that exists in Nigeria, making why we have the larger percentage of the population is poor, who are looking for a means of a better life. By so doing, they become prey to what? To human traffickers who promise them heaven on earth. Who promise them heaven on earth and take them out of Nigeria and use them and exploit them. And I also says that bad leadership also contributes to why human trafficking flourish in Nigeria. And I argue that if federal government is to curb the activity of human trafficking to the bare minimum level, that means that there is a need for the federal government to address the social inequality existing in Nigeria by providing a platform for Nigerians who are from poor background to be able to find something useful to do. By how do I mean something useful to do? When when the educational system is functioning, we have lesser children in the street begging. We have a lesser children that will be used for servitude at what we call odo in Yoruba, and in English we call them housemaid. At the same time, if federal government, if the Nigerian government also provide the basic amenities, then many Nigerians who have been made to believe that it's only outside Nigeria they could prosper, could see the need to stay back home and give everything needed to be able to prosper in Nigeria. How many minutes do I have left? Hello, sir.
3 more minutes. 3 more minutes. 3.
Okay, 3 more minutes. Thank you. So in my conclusion, I said that after drug and arms trafficking, human trafficking is the third largest criminal activities in the world. Portraying the evil aspect of human trafficking, Eneka and Olutayo in 2000 state that the effect of human trafficking is disastrous, devastating, and damaging to the victim, family, and society at large. There is no gainsaying human trafficking is a manifestation of modern-day slavery in the 21st century that rob women and children the dignity of their right to a decent living. It is not that trafficking of persons contributed to global threat to peace, the safety of persons and development. From this study, it's clear that the issue of human trafficking has significantly increased in the recent time, giving justification to our understanding of the phenomenon and its impact on the African continent. So these people show that human trafficking is a huge challenge contemporary Nigeria and world at large. Therefore, it's important to move beyond this just discussing the menace of human trafficking in Nigeria, but what is of most important is giving more attention to what needs to be done to address the issue. Taking a closer look at efforts of CSO in curbing the modern day slave in Africa and the need for government to arise to the occasion as a constitutional demand to stop the evil of human trafficking. So that is what this paper intend to address. Hello?
Thank you. Are you done?
Okay. Okay, I'm done, sir.
Okay, thank you very much for keeping to the time allotted to you. Yes, I have a number of comments to share, but since we have our reviewers here, I would give them that opportunity to do that. I would also try and touch on a number of things. But before I say that, I want to say to Mr. Jegede and other people who are on this platform who plans to publish soon, that when you send out a paper for review, you should have an open mind to receive comments from reviewers. Usually those comments are not palatable, and at times they come with tension, you know. I remember attending a workshop sometimes, and the professor told us a story. He was just trying to encourage us, and he said to us that even as a professor, there was a time he got a feedback from a journal, and he was told that the paper was worthless and that the recommendations he gave are recommendations that the layman could get through Google search. Now, that is so harsh, but the point I'm trying to make is, irrespective of your cadre, irrespective of your level in academics, as far as you continue to write, your paper will always be reviewed, and the comments will always come. And the comments are not always palatable, but in the end, they are meant to make your work more refined and more thorough, so that at the end of the day, when you are published, you are proud of what you have done. So it is in that light that I want you to see some of the comments that will be made by the reviewers today. Having said that, I would just like to say one or two things. I have reviewed this paper, and I have a comprehensive note which I'm going to share with the organizers of this program after this session. Reading your draft, I get a sense of you trying to do an assessment of the responses and the roles, the responses and the efforts that the government and the various CSOs have made so far in the fight against the human trafficking in Nigeria. Looking at your title, it doesn't really tell me a lot about that. So I think you would have to rework that. I've suggested a title which you could work with, but that is your choice, as I've said. Secondly, is with the vocabulary. You used some vocabularies that are not really, there are some vocabularies that are specific to each discipline. So there are some that you're supposed to use, there are some terms that you're supposed to use when it comes to human trafficking. Some of them are missing in your work. This is why it is good to give out your work to editors at the end of it. At the end of the day, when you're done writing, you give it out to an editor who is vast in that area, so that when he or she is editing your work, he or she could be able to use the right words in that regard. And again, I could see a lot of repetitions in your work. In the various sections, there were lots of repetitions in the sections. That is also one thing you should take care of. Like I said, I've noted all of these things in my comments, which I cannot discuss all here. And majorly, the article structure is faulty. And I think that is one of the reasons why you have a lot of repetitions coming up in the draft. You also have to take note of that. Then statistics, your work lacks statistics. There's no way you work on human trafficking and you wouldn't provide some sort of statistics and figures on trafficked persons in Nigeria, migrant returnees, etc. And I have suggested the structure for you and what you have to do under each of them. And when it comes to your analysis, it's a good start, but you still have to do more. You still have to do more by letting us know what the government has actually done in the fight against human trafficking. What are their successes and achievements so far? And that goes for CSOs as well. I don't know if you have advertised the mind to this point as well. Some CSOs who come into the community, who infiltrate the community with the mind or with the aim of sabotaging their efforts. They are coming up as CSOs and they are joining other CSOs in the fight against human trafficking. But in actual sense of it, they are trying to get information and in a way trying to sabotage the efforts. Mind you, traffickers, smugglers, handlers, they are very, very smart in what they do. And that is why, as the government is trying to bring up a measure, they are 10 steps ahead of the government. And that's why up to today, we still have this business, this illicit business going on. So I don't know if you have advertised the mind to this idea. It's worth thinking. We can discuss further. We can discuss further after this thing. So, like I said, I have given you, I've given the structure. I've suggested the structure which you could work with, which I'm going to share with you at the end of this session. And finally, the Nigerian Immigration Service and NAPTIP organized a meeting on the 27th of January. It was more of a stakeholders meeting. There were also state government representatives there. I mean, countries being represented. There was the Italian government representative, the United States, and Switzerland. So we are very fortunate, like I said, from the beginning to have a person from the Nigerian Immigration Service here present today. So these are the people I would advise that you work with in terms of getting relevant data, concrete materials that would help you to really do an in-depth analysis of what you are really talking about. And in your conclusion, you let us know, you make policy recommendations that would help the government as well as the CSOs in their fight against this global menace. Okay, it is on this I would like to call on Mr. Alabi, who is here to represent the Deputy Controller of Immigration, person of Mr. Akinlade, to please give us his critique of this paper. Is he here, Mr.
Yes.
Alabi? Okay,
Yeah,
thank you very much. Please, you have 15 minutes to do this. Thank you.
Okay. I greet everybody in the house. Hello? Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
We can hear you loud.
We can hear you, sir.
Okay, I greet everybody. Yeah, good afternoon. Yes, I read the paper. I really appreciate him. He put in some effort, and there is need for additional of some terminologies and some ideas to fit into his paper. From his extract, he make a mention of human trafficking is traced to 1990. Human trafficking. Hello? Hello?
We can hear you, please go on.
Yeah. Human trafficking started as a result of end to slave trade. After the slave trade, that was when human trafficking started. It's a modernized slave trade. So in his book, all he mentioned about referring to some authors, some reference. From what I've read, he has not done a kind of investigative writing by interviewing some people that have practical experience, probably housemaid, people people that they have taken to outside Nigeria, to hear from them. You hear from practical experience. That one will give you more idea on what to write. And also in the paper, I do not see a kind of definition of human trafficking and child labor or trafficking person. That's supposed to be a kind of definition that we carry the reader along, that the person writing this paper really know what he's writing on. The definition will also guide you on what to write. The definitions are in manifold. We have the one from NAPTIP, we have the one from Oxford dictionary, and we have some definition from other authors, which I believe he has to go into and get some ideas. I think at the end of the day, he can also develop his own definitions of human trafficking and child labor in his own way. Because if you really deal with the book, you have your own way of defining how you see human trafficking and child labor. Let me just go into practical experience. Human trafficking in Nigeria is getting to a level that Nigeria is an epic center of human trafficking. Nigeria is a source country. Nigeria is a transit country. Nigeria is a destination country. What I mean by source country is where they source ladies, girls, boys that they take out of Nigeria. As a transit country, they move from one country and passes through Nigeria to another country. As a destination country, they still come to Nigeria and deposit or bring those traffic victims and distribute them in Nigeria here. Human trafficking in Nigeria. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Please
hello?
Go ahead. We can hear you.
We can hear you, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Human trafficking in Nigeria take many forms. We have, let me just give you some idea of human trafficking we have in Nigeria here. We have internal trafficking. Internal trafficking is trafficking that is within Nigeria. The one that we experience within our country. That is probably from Benue to Lagos, from Benue to Ibadan. Hello? Hello?
Go ahead, please. We can hear you.
Yeah. From Ibadan to Lagos, from one house to another house, from one street to another street. That's trafficking. Movement of persons from one place to another for the purpose of exploitation. That's simple definition of human trafficking. We have experience of some people that they move even their own cousin from one house to another house. Unconsciously, they may not know that they are involving in human trafficking. But taking a child that is below age of 18 and you engage that child in child labor, you have trafficked that person and you have played on that person intelligence because that person did not know. Engaging he or she in a job that is more than his capacity, that's child labor. So some people, they do engage in things that they do not know. For example, now, somebody will say, I want to pay my niece from the East, especially, sorry to mention a particular place. I'm just talking from the experience. From the East, that this is my nephew coming to stay with me. Now you'll be engaging that your nephew in a hard work that is more than that person's capacity. You not take her to school, she'll be working, or you will engage her in cafeteria job, bukateria job. You understand what I'm trying to say now? That's that. And also we have from our neighboring country, that's the external trafficking. That from Togo to Nigeria, that one is common. The one that we use as house help. That people we employ underage from Togo, from Benin, they have gone against immigration law and Nigerian law. For a person to engage an immigrant from another country without a travel document, one, he has gone against immigration law. For a person to employ an underage victim, he has gone against Nigerian law and also immigration law, and also to engage a person that is underage and you are paying that person, or you are paying that person's money to another person. The person that is not working, the person working is not the one getting that money. It's like they are enslaving that person. So in the work of the writer here, you need to put all these things together. Hello? Hello?
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Okay. And also, the writer has to narrow his scope to help him. You have to narrow the scope. All what he's doing is he will just measuring all over the world, Nigerian, West Africa. Let's know, where do you want to be? Use a case study. Get a case study so that you can narrow yourself and it will not expose you to many things. Probably you can get a state. Either Ibadan, since it's in Ibadan, you can get Ibadan, you can get Lagos, you can get Edo as a case study. Use example and relate it to what you are writing. And also, you do not make use of statistics. If you are writing this kind of paper, you need a statistic to draw a conclusion, to know probably the government is working hard to curtail this menace, or they are not putting more efforts. And also, you may mention of the civil, the NGOs, like the Work-Life and whatever. Work-Life have tried their own best possible also, but you need to focus more on what federal government have done. In immigration, there are some measures that we are taking in battling human trafficking and child labor issue. We're able to establish anti-human trafficking and child labor units. Then, with the issue of e-passports, the setting up of border corps, and also some other stringent measures to curtail people from taking our people out of Nigeria. Though we have porous border which they pass through, but we are trying our best. We put on our border corps to man all our illegal routes, and also at our entry points, the legal entry points, we make sure that our officers follow the due process, because we make sure we ensure that anybody that's going with 2 or more people, we try to question them. Even if they want to get passports, obtain e-passport, we make sure that we question them. What's your relationship with these people that you want to obtain passports for? And also, if you want to obtain passports for underage, you need to come with relevant documents and prove that this person is either your child or you are acting as a guardian. So these are the things that federal government is using immigration for, to make sure that we curb the issue of human trafficking and child labor. And also, going by the paper, the writer have to make sure that he use Nigerian idea in writing it. Most of these writing is referring to people outside Nigeria. You have to make use of Nigerian idea so that it will help us to even to see what we do not see. It will also help the security agents to make sure that they even work more, because we cannot see everything. We depend on Nigerians to give us more information. By his own paper now, we can even get more information from what he is doing. So, hello?
Go ahead. We have, hello, you have 2 more minutes, please.
Okay. So I have some ideas that I can share with him on how to rearrange the paper, and there are some key actors that he needs to put in the write-up. For example, we have victim, we have child, we have internal trafficker, we have external trafficker, we have end users. These are terminologies that we use in solving anti-human trafficking and child labor unit. Let me quickly define some of these terminology that I just mentioned. We have end users. These are the people that engage these victims, that exploit these victims. We have victims. Victims are the people that are being exploited. We have traffickers. Traffickers are the people that recruit these victims through means of deceit, coercion, or false deception. Can you understand what I'm trying to say now? And we have child. A child is a person that is not up to 18 years. So all these things have to be in this paper so that you will try to tell your readers that all these players are involved in human trafficking. So how to arrange the paper, I can support him. Maybe I buy WhatsApp or any other means where if he requests, I will guide him on putting all these things so that the paper will look so presentable. And I think with your assistance, everything can go fine. I think I'm done.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alabi, for that resourceful contribution. Thank you very much. I would call on Mr. Ngozi Uzomah to also give his critique on the paper. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, all.
Yeah, good evening.
15 minutes, please. Thank you.
How many minutes, 10?
15 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm Ngozi Luis Uzomah from Department of Geography, University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and one of the review of this working paper by Mr. Jegede. Well, I think there are two policy areas where this paper can be applied: in economic policy and in the legal policy. In economic policy, it will help the government to create a deliberate system of principles to guide decisions in alleviating poverty, which this paper has shown is one of the drivers of human trafficking in Nigeria. For example, during structural adjustment programs or during economic downturn in Nigeria, the government can use the analysis gotten from this paper to make decisions on cutbacks in socioeconomic sectors of the country, like in education, in employment and health sector, so that they don't affect people negatively. If they affect people negatively, they will leave the country to go elsewhere where they will find a better life. And on the process, they might get trafficked. In the legal policy, it will help government to make protocols and procedures in the legal sector of the country, especially when safeguarding the personal liberty, conflicts with security of the state. For example, in curbing human trafficking, if Mr. A is suspected to be harboring people for trafficking in a location, when is it necessary to bust that house in order to release those people? Is it when enough evidence is gotten? Which type of evidence is supposed to be gotten before Mr. A house is busted? Bearing also in mind that Mr. A has liberty, he has a right of association. He can claim that those people are his congregants or his musical group. So we must know the real definition of trafficking so that trafficking could be curbed. I see major weaknesses in this place, two major weaknesses in this paper. One is in page 3. If you go to the background of human trafficking in Nigeria. I think after the first sentence, what the author could have done is to define human trafficking based on Palermo protocols, because inside the paper on page 8, where he wrote on Nigerian approach to human trafficking, he mentioned that before Palermo Protocol declaration that Nigeria already has laws to combating issues relating to human trafficking. But before then, he did not explain anything about Palermo Protocol. So how do we know what he's talking about? So he has to explain Palermo Protocol, the definition given by Palermo Protocols based on the 3 elements of human trafficking, which is the act, the means, and the purpose. The protocol defines human trafficking as the act of recruiting, of transporting, of harboring persons by means of threat or force or other forms of coercion, of abduction, fraud, etc., for the purpose of exploitation, which can be in forced labor or in sex work. Another area of weakness I saw is in page 5, paragraph 3. After where you have Kibu 2015, the author missed the opportunity to expatiate on the nuances between human trafficking, human smuggling, and irregular migration. He could have defined those 3 issues and then find their connections. Like Polaris 2006 made it clear that human trafficking is not synonymous with human smuggling and irregular migration. He could have brought in the connection between these 3 issues and the connection of activities between these 3 issues is what the network of activities between these 3 issues is worked inductively. Massey 1988 termed network theory, which states that social network helps would-be migrants to get information about the place they are going to. It also helps the traffickers and smugglers to get information or to pass information about imminent immigration and border control checks. So in curbing human trafficking, it's good to know about this network. And it's also good to, if you want to curb human trafficking, you have to interrupt this network. How do you interrupt this network? How do you disrupt it? It is by knowing who is involved in the network. Who are the traffickers? Who are the victims? Are the traffickers syndicated? Are they related by kinship? Who are the convincers? Where is the convincing done? In rural areas and in urban areas? Again, I think in conclusion, where I am now. Okay. Also, to improve this work, I think the author should also expand on the dynamism of the trafficking, which is geographical in nature, and also cuts across different population in Nigeria and different endeavors of life. Like, for example, children are trafficked from Sokoto and Benue to Kano and Kaduna for begging. Pregnant ladies and the teenagers are trafficked in Abia and Ebonyi in order to harvest their babies and sell in black markets in Port Harcourt and in Lagos. Young people who are desperate to migrate because of economic condition in the country are trafficked through Libya to Europe and through Egypt to Israel. On that process, some of them some of them get into the hands of bad people who harvest their internal organ for onward sale in black markets. So this geographical nature of the dynamism must be mentioned. In the literature review, I think the literature is inadequate because the author says that there are a variety of scholars who work on human trafficking, the nature, the causes and factors, and the effect of human trafficking. He stopped there. I did not see any author. I only saw Limoncelli and no other author. So I think the author can check Gimba 2005 and Shaibi 2006, who likened human trafficking as tantamount to modern day slavery. He can also check Bass and Kone 2008, who identified that the main cause of human trafficking globally is massive population explosion. For push factors of human trafficking in Nigeria, he can check Geshinde and Eleboye 2011, who discover some of the push factors as inability to meet basic needs of life, more children, having more children than one can cater, and also lack of information about the realities of human trafficking. They recommended that government should improve the economic base of families in order to them not to get into the hands of traffickers. And in globalization and rising human trafficking in Nigeria, the author can take Iyanda and Mogu 2016, who discovered that globalization has direct link with human trafficking in Nigeria, and recommended that government should moderate the influence of human trafficking in order to reduce the level of poverty and unemployment so that people do not migrate for greener pasture and on the process get trafficked. In the conclusion, I think the conclusion too did not tally with evidence provided inside the paper. Yes, the conclusion was talking about drug trafficking and armed trafficking, which is not inside the paper. It also talked about rising human trafficking in Nigeria. I did not see any statistic that shows that the human trafficking is rising in Nigeria in his paper. He also talked about human trafficking as a modern day slavery in Africa. We are not talking about Africa, but Nigeria. And there is nothing that shows that human trafficking is tantamount to modern day slavery in his paper. So if he wants to bring down this in his paper, he should put it in his work, in the main work, then bring it down to conclusion. Another thing he can bring into the conclusion is to bring the evidence from the paper where he connected poverty to human trafficking and also bad governance to human trafficking, which are all in this paper. You know, what again he can do is to explain some of the successes and failures of government and CSOs in curbing trafficking in Nigeria. I understand that there are 3 fundamental frameworks in curbing human trafficking globally, which reflects the protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially women and children. And these 3 fundamental frameworks are known as 3 Ps. They are prevention, protection, and prosecution. In this work, I saw the protection, the prevention activities by Woodcliffe. That is the foundation established by former First Lady of Nigeria, Mrs. Atiku. Mrs. Was the former First Lady of Nigeria, where they created awareness in 2001 about girls being kept somewhere and they make babies and the babies are sold into the black market, and also where teenagers are lured into prostitution abroad, to go abroad and do prostitutes. I also saw protection activities by the foundation established by former First Lady of Edo State, Mrs. Ibinedion, called Idia Renaissance. They Foundation established vocational centers to reintegrate and empower deportees and those that were trafficked into the society. But I did not see anything on prosecution, which is very important. Nothing on prosecution. I'm aware that there are some prosecutions in Kano State and in Edo State. The author did not bring any of this here. So, if the author can bring some of the successes and failures of government and CSOs in curbing human trafficking in Nigeria, it will help to formulate adequate recommendations to combat human trafficking. And in some of the pages, the paragraphs are so many. Some places, paragraphs are 6, some 5. So you have to reduce the paragraphs. And there are punctuation problems, tenses, and grammatic errors. Like we can start with the first page. You see the first sentence is not okay. Human trafficking is as old as man, full stop. Then it is an organized crime. You put full stop, then you continue. You don't just put the comma, it looks upward. And line 9 of the same abstract, where you say this paper therefore analyzes Nigerian government efforts. And you came to the next sentence, you say this paper examines, it doesn't, the semantic is not okay. You write this paper here and you can write here, it examines, cancel this paper, the second this paper. And I urge the author to be consistent with CSO rather than CSOs, NGOs, because the topic is talking about CSOs, not NGOs. And in introduction, line 3, where you have his/her, the author can replace that with their victims. Let's go to.
Please round up. Your time is up, please. Just
time
1
is
more
up.
minute, please.
Okay. Now, the author, if you want to use acronym, first of all, you write the full meaning, then use the acronym. Then subsequently, just use the acronym. Don't be using the full name and also the acronym. Like in page 5, the second paragraph and the last line where you have transnational organization crime, the author ought to have put TOC there. And then the next paragraph, the author ought to have used TOC in the view of Miragela et al. TOC takes place where that's what the author could have done. Anyway, I thank you for giving me this opportunity to be part of the exercise. On this note, I yield the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Uzomah, for your intervention. I mean, I'm glad the two reviewers have been able to touch on quite a number of concerns, which I also noted in my comments here. I would just like to talk, just to add just a few more points which I noted in the paper presented. The first comment would have to do with the literature consulted. I could see the literature consulted as somewhat dated, and I can understand why that happened. Access to recently published articles and books might be difficult from there. So in that wise, I am offering to assist in that regard. If you have a need of any material that you come across and you are not able to download them, you may reach out to me and I would assist in that regard. Secondly, you also have to let us know what methodology you are adopting. You see, I could not see that in any of your work. I've noted it in my note, which you would see when I share with you. You have to let us know, are you adopting a documentary research, or are you doing a qualitative study? Just like Mr. Alabi noted, he advised that you need to carry out some interviews and speak to some people. Well, the choice in that regard is going to be yours. You can decide to do a qualitative study, and you can decide to still stick to a documentary research, which is what you have done. I would just advise that you get enough materials. There are a lot of publications in that regard. People who have just, recent publications, 2020 publications, which you can refer to. I remember Professor Bukola Akintola of the University of Ibadan just published a book chapter last year that would really help you. And I remember she published another one maybe in 2018 or so. I also did a study for the European Union in 2019. The publication should be out soon. So these are some of the materials that would really help you if you're unable to go to the field to interview these people. And I know how expensive that can be, which might be an issue. So you can still decide to stick to your documentary research method, but then you have to consult more recent literature, you see. And that's exactly the point that Mr. Alabi and my colleague has made. I'm also currently working on a project which has to do with child labor in West Africa. So we're kind of working along the same path, so we could work together if that is fine by you. So I will just call on Mr. Jegede if he has anything to say based on the feedbacks he's gotten. Do you have a response or whatever you want to say to the reviewers? Mr. Jegede.
Thank you very much for the reviewers. I'm grateful. At least I've gotten some basic things that skipped my attention. I didn't factor in as being of necessity. As the first reviewer stated, there was no definition of terms or conceptual clarification that I should have actually made mention of. At the same time, I will definitely go back and do the basic rework as stated by the two reviewers. But in one of the reviewer, I think in page 5, in page 3, the reviewer made mention of internal and external trafficking. Though I didn't use that terminology, which I think I will have to introduce when reworking the paper. But I did mention in page 3 and page 4 when I said human trafficking takes place from rural community to urban city like Lagos, Port Harcourt, Ibadan. At the same time, I made mention of certain things like that, which is actually the only, but I didn't use that term, internal trafficking. I will go back and do the basic thing and look critically into every suggestion that has been given so far. I've taken note of all the corrections, and at the same time, Dr. Ngozi made mention of dynamics of geography in human trafficking. I never even thought about that. I only mentioned human trafficking from one place, which I'm going to do the needful. And as you rightly mentioned, sir, about consultation of material, I'm open and I'll be glad to receive all necessary material to be able to aid the work to be publishable and at the same time serving as a policy shift if is adopted by the federal government or the state government in order to mitigate against the human trafficking in Nigeria. I will definitely work on it and do the necessary correction. Thank you once again for all the views that has been expressed, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I would just say to you that you work closely with Mr. Alabi. He will be able to assist you with materials on various efforts and interventions which they've carried out in response to the menace of trafficking in persons in Nigeria. That would really help you, and you would get recent materials from them. And like I said, they just there was a stakeholders meeting that was held on the 27th between the Nigerian Immigration Service and NAPTIP, where some UN agencies were also present. So these are the things you can work with him on in getting some of their recommendations, and that would greatly help your work, given the fact that you're looking at what government have done so far, you see. So you have to be current. You have to be current. You don't have to consult. You don't have to work with materials that are 2018 and all that. That won't tell us what has been done in 2019 or in 2020, you see. So that would be my advice to you. And it is on these notes. Okay, I don't know if anybody has anything to say as regards the paper. I think we should give opportunity to participants as well. Please, if you have anything, comment, question for the writer, if you have anything to say, please unmute yourself and let us hear you.
Good evening, sirs, and everybody.
I think we lost him.
Oh, sorry. Okay. I'm back. Yeah, on a very great one on doctors. Thanks for the comments and contributions. And well done, Mr. Jegede. So from me, I wrote some points from having gone through the paper, and then I realized that, of course, this is a very fine paper. I must confess, you have done a very great job, sir. But then I realized some vital things were missing. The first one was the research objectives. It's missing. And then the theoretical framework too, I found that not being there. And then, of course, Dr. Okunade has rightly said, the research methodology is also equally absent. And then, for literature review, I noticed that the main book you wrote, you got your materials from one Limoncelli 2016. And you could just get other books, as doctors have said. You could just get more recent publications to buttress your literature review. It's kind of thin. It's thin. Literature review is kind of thin. And then, on the laws, you mentioned something about criminal code and then the penal code. Well, that was then. We have new laws now. There is this Act 2015, Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015. That one, it combines the criminal penal code and then the criminal code together. The northern one and the southern one combines them together to form one. So that's the Act 2015. Just read up on that. So that's my own comment. And well done, sirs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Larry. Thank you for your intervention. Any other person?
Can I make one more point?
Okay, go ahead, please.
Please, it's not good after carrying out research and the research is not published because of some mistakes. Like in the citation, he must check his in-text citation. You cannot write a name, comma, then date. And also, you must stick to one particular style. If you are sticking to APA, you stick to APA. Harvard, you stick to Harvard style or MLA. That's what I want to tell him. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And just to add to what I just said, by the time you're done with your work and you're about to send it out for review, each journal has its own referencing style. So if you have any journal you have in mind, I would advise that you check that out ab initio so that you factor that in refining your draft. Yeah, thank you very much. Any other person?
Hello, can I say something?
Please go ahead.
I would like to encourage the writer that when he's writing, when he's doing the some corrections there, he should make sure that he use figures to support or to back up his claim, and also he should endeavor to use current information, as the one that he used, the penal code and the criminal code. We have Immigration Act, we have our constitution that have surpassed those things, and also we have, like Oyo State, we have a Child Right Act in Oyo State that say more about right of the child, and also what discourages how child will know his right and the right of the parents. So I will encourage him to look for those laws so that it will assist him to get good write-up. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any other intervention? Okay, thank you very much to the reviewers, to the presenter, Mr. Jegede. Thank you for this presentation, and I hope you would work with all the suggestions that have been made so that you have a more refined paper that you are proud of when it's published. It is on this note that I hand over to Dr. Festus. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone, for your time, and thank you very much to our chair, Dr. Samuel Okunade, for chairing this session very beautifully. Thank you so much. Thank you to our reviewers. Thank you so much, Mr. Alabi and Mr. Ngozi Lewis. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Babatunde, for all of the for presenting, and I hope you've been able to get one or two things from the comments that you have received. I have just pasted something on the chat. Would like to improve on our delivery and some of the content for the colloquia. I'm just going to copy and paste it again. If you don't mind, please kindly help us fill this colloquia and the survey to give us feedback on anything we can improve on. Thank you very much, everyone, and hopefully we have another one very soon. I just wanted to inform us about the roundtable on reimagining higher education in Nigeria. We are looking forward to our keynote speaker, Professor Francis Egbokare, and we hope that you will be part of us when we share the details of the forthcoming roundtable. Thank you very much, everyone, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the day and a wonderful week ahead. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.